Again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And we are here with a new prop on the table, as you can see. And Sallyanne, I'll just let you talk to that beautiful piece.
Well, what's to say, Peter? This is special in many ways. It was given to me as a personal gift by Mr. Pomodoro, Arnaldo Pomodoro, who was the internationally famous sculptor who designed the pieces, the beautiful pieces that we have now in Edward Street under Jacob's Ladder there. I actually can't remember what this is supposed to be, but that doesn't actually matter, because it's just beautiful in itself. And so to me it's important because it has sentimental value, but it's important because it's something beautiful to look at, and it's very much his style, was the way he did things. And I just feel so thrilled that we have those pieces that a lot of people, of course, don't know what they are, and that doesn't matter either. But the Greek myths that they are. But I just think where they are now is wonderful.
And you've managed to save them twice, in effect, haven't you? You saved them from Expo, and then you saved them, dare I say, saved them from Campbell.
Well, I don't know that I saved them from Campbell, but I certainly alerted Campbell when the King George Square was being done up, in a manner of speaking, that I went in and said, Campbell, just be careful of those beautiful sculptures over there, because apart from being beautiful, they're very valuable. In fact, when we paid 1.1 million for them after Expo, because of not just for their intrinsic beauty, but because they were by Mr. Pomodoro, who is on display in all the great cities of the world.
He was one of the rare sculptors at Expo, actually, that arrived at Expo who was a living legend, and was a living legend at the time, because John Truscott had managed to put together a significant collection, some of which was legendary because they had passed on, others which were legendary and they were still alive, and as it happens, some that are legendary 25 years after the event, because their career has gone from that little push Expo gave them to being legendary.
Well, he was a legend, of course, at that stage. And I have a book that he gave me as well, with all his work in it, which I've lent to somebody and I haven't got back. So if anybody out there hasn't, could you please send it back, because it has descriptions of that sculpture and these sculptures. But anyhow, getting back to the story with Campbell. So I said, Campbell, I bought them for 1.1, or we, the city did. When I left office, they were valued at 3 million. So they're very important. And Campbell said, oh, perhaps I could knock them down. I went, I think you're joking, and I think he was joking, but I wanted him just to know how important. But then the poor little things, the poor big things, had a bit of a peripatetic life after that, because they were put into storage, and then nobody knew where they were to go. Somebody suggested they could go down near the new Supreme Court, but it was really important for those sculptures that, first of all, that they stay together. They're a family, the Clytemnestra whole bit, and Agamemnon. They had to stay together as a family, but also they needed, as most sculptures, need to be viewed from afar.
And they've got a beautiful viewing platform.
And where they are, I think, is wonderful. I was so thrilled. And they're lit, of course, at night, and as you're coming up Turbot Street, or you're coming, well, you can't actually come up Edward Street, of course, and if you go down Edward Street, you have to look backwards. But for people walking around the city at night and looking up and seeing them. So I think that's wonderful.
There is actually another Expo piece there, Memories of Wind, which is at the top end of...
That's the silver piece.
No, that's the black granite piece. There's a black granite piece by a Japanese artist, and I'm not even going to attempt to mention his name.
Let me have a go. Mr. Nishimura?
Yeah.
Oh, Fumio. Yes, Fumio Nishimura.
So he's that piece is at the top end of that King Edward.
You sure that's not the silver one? This
black granite.
Right. Oh well, there was another silver piece as
possibly
well up there.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so there is a little family connection of Expo sculptures in King Edward Park. One at the top, one down the bottom, which is really great, because I know that Brisbane greeters are very actively looking at, and I'm hoping that in this year, the 25th anniversary, is that they do launch their expo tours, because that was part of your vision, was to have the sculptures placed in Brisbane so that people could get the feel that, well, this was an expo city at one point.
Well, I mean, both you and I believe that Expo was so important, but really it was sort of more than that. And this was what Expo did do for Brisbane. As I said, it made Brisbane an international city. It made people in Brisbane look out from the city. Before Expo, we all used to have tea at 5 o'clock, or dinner at night. People weren't used to going out in Brisbane at night. And after, I had friends whose parents went out to the Expo site every single night. These were the people who were like my parents, who had tea at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock if you were running late. So that whole idea of a nightlife. But the thing about the Expo sculptures and the Expo art in the widest possible sense was that the people of Brisbane were given an opportunity to keep looking at beautiful things, to understand how important public art is. And sometimes we have bad public art, which is very depressing, but all of these pieces were wonderful pieces. I mean, there might have been something that wasn't that good, but John Truscott, of course, was a wonderful man, and he was in charge of all the sort of the artistic side of Expo, and did a fantastic job, and kept under difficult circumstances, because people in the arts, that we all know, have to have missionary zeal. They have to convince people that the arts are not just the icing on the cake. The arts are an integral part of life, for what they do to the human spirit, the joy they give people, the mind-stretching experience of looking at a piece of art and having to think about it, and just giving us, as Brisbane, an opportunity to be a world-class city, because we had so much wonderful art and art displayed in public places. And that's the benefit of these Expo sculptures. They were made to be put outside. They were outdoor pieces, and so we could safely put them in public parks, put them in public places. Sometimes I've got a very nice piece of Shona sculpture out there, but that's sort of, I've kept it on the veranda, and it's rather suffered from that very recent stone. So these pieces were designed to be outdoors, and outdoors they shall remain.
And thank goodness from Brisbane's heritage perspective. And with one of the themes I've been talking about as we roll along is that, yes, it's all very well to celebrate the 25th anniversary, but we should be looking forward to the G20, because it steps so nicely from the 25th anniversary into the G20, and then even beyond that into the 2018, I think it is, Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast, because we've proven, well, looking back, we've done a great job with Expo 88. I think that Graham and Campbell and all of the people of Queensland are going to do an absolutely amazing job of showcasing Queensland and Brisbane for the G20, across the board, all political parties, because we all love Queensland. And that will, as I said, be in turn then roll on into the Commonwealth Games, and the celebration of Expo 88 is I just see it as a stepping stone.
Well, it's a stepping stone. It's a link. It's also a continuous reminder to people that events like Expo are very important, not just for when they happen, but for the legacy they leave, exactly, and for the continuing benefits in the form of the public art from Expo. And there will be an art component to the Commonwealth Games, because there is, and I'm sure that when we have the G20, I'm not sure if it's part of the G20 rules that you've got to have a sort of, well, I don't, the Olympics always have the Olympic Art Festival. Commonwealth Games will have their art festival. I hope the G20 will have an art festival, because when you look back in history, all the great civilizations, if you think of Egypt, Babylonian, Rome, Greek, they're really remembered for their great artworks, for the art and the culture that they gave to civilization, not for the great battles, not for the politicians, not for anything much except for the art that they handed on. So I think we have a responsibility as a society today just to make sure that we continue to contribute to the legacy, and we continue to maintain and preserve that legacy in the way that it ought to be.
And that, to me, sounds like it's a great note to finish the YouTube on. And Sallyanne, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see